Hi, I'm Rebecca Varadol. You're watching Rescue TV, and I am so pleased to be able to introduce to you today my very good friend Annabel Langbein. She's visiting from New Zealand. Annabel, hi.
Hi Rebecca, it's so nice to be here.
Yeah, it's always good to see you.
You too.
We first met over your first TV series.
No,
The
that
Free
was
Range
really
Cook.
fun. Yeah, and I came over and I met Rebecca, and you were blogging away, and you kept on posting recipes of mine, and you said, "Oh my gosh, people love these."
But what I loved about your TV show is that we saw a little bit into your world about gardening and the farm and growing vegetables and then taking them through to the plate. How did the farming start for you?
Oh my gosh, how long have we got? I was very lucky because I kind of grew up in a family where my dad had a big city job, but he'd come home and he'd put his gardening clothes on, and then he'd go outside and he'd grow all these beautiful vegetables and bees. He had bees, so he made honey as well, and bring them in to the back door, beautifully washed, for my mother to cook. So I kind of grew up in a family that had this history of kind of eating and living around the table and having these beautiful meals that were just so fresh. And then I was this real renegade teenager that caused my father to lose all his hair and my mother to go grey in a flash. And I left home when I was 16 and went and lived this hippie life up in a very remote part of New Zealand with my boyfriend and another friend. And we grew vegetables, and I grew an acre of vegetables, and just lived off the land, very, very simple, resourceful, cooked over a fire, and spent quite a few years living this very outdoorsy life, and actually realizing that food was the thing that kind of centered me and it was sort of in my DNA. But I have always loved to grow. And even though I never studied cooking, I actually went to university and did horticulture. So I studied horticulture at university, and it's been a really useful thing, actually, Rebecca, because when you grow something, if you can understand how it actually grows and you understand the plant family that it comes from, then it makes it really easy to cook with. So for example, if you're working with a leek or an onion or some garlic, they all belong to the same allium family. So when you cook them, they're going to lose that really sort of strident, sort of acrid flavour in the front palate, and they're going to get really, really soft at the back. So they'll all exhibit that same trait. And it means,
does that mean you can replace them in a recipe?
Yes, so you're able to start substituting. So it gives far more kind of flexibility and freedom to your cooking. Because I think the thing about cooking is so many people are kind of a slave to the recipe, and if they don't have a stalk of celery or a sprig of thyme, they're not going to make it.
Whereas it needs to be freer, doesn't it? Enjoyable.
And once you understand the basic concept of a recipe, because there's a methodology, if you're going to grill something or fry something or steam something, there's always this methodology. And once you've understood that, and what is the one thing that can go wrong, because there's always been going to be one thing that can go wrong. Once you know that, it kind of frees you up to start developing your own creativity.
What about the gardening aspect though? I live in an apartment with a tiny balcony, and I'd really like to grow some things to cook at home. Where should I start?
Well, I think the very best place to start is with microgreens. So microgreens are just basically tiny little greens that come out. They're a dicotyledon, so they've only got the two little wee leaves at the top. And you can grow so many things that way, whether you grow broccoli, you grow radish sprouts, you grow, you can grow snow peas, there's about 11 or 12 different vegetables you can grow. And I was just reading some research last week that shows that those tiny little wee greens have something like 6 times more nutrient power
when they're fresh.
When they're tiny. Than the full-grown leaf. So they're just like this power pack of goodness. And they look so pretty.
I think I need those.
They just look so pretty on top of a salad or in a sandwich. But I love it when things look pretty and they actually taste good and they're really good for you. So that's a very simple thing to do. And all you need to do is get yourself a container. It can be, anything, a little container. You don't need it very deep. Probably about this deep. And you sprinkle a whole packet of seeds into that container. You'll need a little bit of
like normal seeds or special microgreens?
Well, you're better to have an organic seed because it won't have any spray coating on it.
Yeah. And
you're eating the seeds so small, so you want to get an organic seed, and you can buy microgreen seeds which tend to be cheaper, so that you get them in bulk more. So, and the bull's blood beetroots are really good on as well. And you just sprinkle them very, very thickly over that soil. Pat it down, and the rule of thumb is that the bigger the seed, the more soil you need on the top. So beetroot actually has quite a big seed, you know, it's sort of almost looks like a grain, whereas something like a rocket seed is very, very tiny. So just a wee sprinkle of earth over the top for that, and a thicker sprinkle for the beetroot seed. And then just water it in, and it will take about 2 weeks. And my father used to put on top of the night store heater, you see, with a little sort of plastic bag over the top to make its own hothouse in there. Because I grew up, it was very, very cold where I grew up, and he would do this in the early spring for his own seedlings. He wasn't growing microgreens, but I do this for my own microgreens. And after about 2 weeks, you get a little sort of almost like a forest of these wee greens, a real swathe of greens, and sward, swathe, I don't know what you call it. And then you can pick them, and it's a wee bit like cutting grass. So you can actually cut them down about halfway through, you know, just go with a pair of scissors, and then they'll grow again. So you don't just get one cut.
When I go from growing these vegetables to cooking, what would I do with them? How would I use these microgreens at home? What's some recipe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your show, your TV show, you always give 3 recipe ideas.
I do.
We should do
Don't
3.
I? Let's do 3. Okay. So let's think about maybe making a pesto out of them, like making a sauce. A green sauce is going to be so vital and so good for you. So you could have just picked those, put them into a food processor. If you've just got a handheld blender with a little bit of nice olive oil, the zest of a lemon, just use a microplane or a zester just to get that outer skin, not the white part underneath, which is bitter. A little bit of salt, if you like the idea of it being spicy, put some chili in. If you want it to be sort of Moroccan, you could put some other spice in, like cumin or something, but I like it quite clean. And just puree it.
Nuts.
Yes, you could put nuts, you could put almonds, hazelnuts, walnuts. Pine nuts are really expensive.
We can make this. I know we can.
So that's a fun thing. So you've just got an instant, really pretty sauce. So another thing that you might like to do, and I've been making this a lot recently, is slightly fancy. Get some avocado, mash it up with a bit of lemon, and add some cucumber into it, and then some very fresh salmon. Very, very fresh salmon, and just very finely dice it raw.
Raw salmon?
Don't squash it, just dice it really finely, you know, smaller, about a quarter of your fingernail. And then a little bit of lemon rind, a little bit of olive oil, a few of those lovely sprouts, just mix through it so it's that flavour. And they're not like big bean sprouts that sort of go clagging on your palate. They're so tiny. And then get, if you haven't got a egg poaching ring, you could actually get the plumber. You could go to a plumbing warehouse place and for about 20 cents get some plastic, you know, piping and cut it. Stick your cucumber in, stick your salmon in, a bit more of the avocado and cucumber on top. So you're making this little stack, and then you've got them on each plate. They look so pretty. Microgreens on top, a little drizzle of olive oil, a little drizzle of your pesto.
Very healthy.
You're in business. Third idea.
Tasty too.
I think a really nice sandwich. So you could make a chicken sandwich. You know, a chicken sandwich, bit of nice mayonnaise, microgreens, maybe some toasted pine nuts, lots of lemon juice, soft brown bread. You're in business.
Annabel, it's so great to have you visiting Sydney, and we're so very, very pleased that you took the time to come and visit it at Rescue TV.
My pleasure.